ドクターケープの特 A 級対策。今回は国連とトランプ、世界とトランプ、そしてそこから紐解いて、世界に国連は必要か、存在意義みたいなところに深く迫っていきたいと思います。
Would the UN be better off without Trump? Would the world be better off without Trump? Would the world be better off without the UN?
まず一つ目です。トランプがいない方が国連は幸せなのかイエスって言っちゃいそうですけどね。はい、それをちょっと見ていきましょう。1、求心力が欲しい国連。2、離脱。3、環境にも貢献しない。4、反国連気質のトランプ。5、民主党の勝利を願う。早速見ていきましょう。アメリカの国力を考えると、やっぱり中心的存在となっても求心力になってほしいところなんですよね。
Recently, the UN has been somewhat marginalized by various centrifugal sentiments of nationalism. The organization would be better off if the US, arguably the most important member country, could help it build the attractive centripetal force. However, the Trump administration has so far failed, displaying, instead, this dispositional aversion to the kind of collective decision-making and policy development that are required at the UN and other multilateral settings.
トランプさんはチームワークが苦手なので、このグローバルの舞台で活躍するっていうのがちょっと苦手なのかもしれないですね。
The fact of the matter is that the UN and some of its specialized agencies have been victimized by President Trump's diplomacy of anti-multilateralism. The US has abandoned its membership selectively within the UN system and taken back previously agreed multilateral treaties. For instance, it has left,among others, UNESCO and the Human Rights Council, and this year announced its intended withdrawal from the WHO. In addition, the country's eagerness to promote the WTO for settling trade disputes has practically disappeared.
一番残念だったのは、私個人的にはこのパリ協定からの離脱ですね。2度見3度見も5度見ぐらいしました。ニュース見て、ほんまかいなって感じですね。信じられないです。
As for UN-facilitated treaties, the US has disclosed its determination of abandoning the Paris Agreement on climate change, thereby not subscribing anymore to voluntary targets to curb greenhouse gas emissions. The country has cut its financial and non-financial contributions to various development projects and programs.
トランプ的なリーダーは他にもたくさんいるんですけども、ここまで反国連を前面に出してくるのはトランプだけですね。
We have recently witnessed the emergence of autocratic nationalist leaders in many countries and rising right-wing parties across the world. However, these leaders do not present such a far-reaching anti-UN disposition as Trump does.
というわけで、国連はジョー・バイデンさんの勝利を願うということです。
As a result, supporters of multilateral diplomacy generally envision that the UN would be better off with the victory of Democratic Party nominee Joe Biden in the upcoming election.
はい、続いての話題ですね。トランプさんがいない方がいいのかっていうことで、これを論理的に説明していらっしゃいますね。1、多国間外交とアメリカ第一主義。2、二国間取引で優位に立つ。3、一時的な利益に走る。4、中国とロシアは。5、次期大統領はトランプ以外。トランプさんはやっぱりビジネスマン向きなのかもしれないですね。
Sensible observers are aware that no country is powerful enough to solve global issues by imposing its own will to others. Upholding the policy dictum of America First, Trump has displayed his strong aversion to multilateral diplomatic processes involving collaborative decision-making.
二国間取引をするにしてもウィンウィンな状況を持っていければいいんですけど、絶対勝ちに行くっていうところがね、なんだかね。
Many non-US leaders must be fed up with his attitude of attempting to settle conflicts of national interests on the bilateral basis by deploying short-term heavy tariffs and sanctions. The international community members are mostly relatively small, low-income countries belonging to the global south. Indeed, multilateral forums are indispensable, as they allow these countries to pool their limited diplomatic power. if necessary, on a long-term basis, so that they could more effectively deal with many global, regional, and cross-border issues.
目先の利益に走っちゃダメっていうことがよくわかりますね。
As long as the president is narrowly concerned with his country's momentary interests and reflects on them in diplomatic relations with others, the genuine solution of many global issues will remain suboptimal, at best.
グローバルノースの分裂を望んでた中国とロシアにとってはしめしめといったところでしょうか。
To some extent, Trump's anti-multilateralism has played into the hands of two emerging powers, China and Russia. These countries have long sought to divide the global north, or west. And now they no longer have to do so, as the Trump administration has done. But the Chinese leaders may still prefer the replacement of Trump, given the pending disputes over China's accountability issues of the COVID-19 pandemic.
はい、というわけで、ロシア以外はジョー・バイデンさんの当選を願っているという感じですね。
Thus, many global constituents, with the notable exception of Russia, may feel that they would be better off with somebody else, rather than Trump as the next US president.
はい、いろいろと批判も受けている国連ですけども、じゃあない方がいいのかっていうことですね。1、時代とともに変わる国連。2、世界大戦の防止。3、国際情勢を反映して変身。4、国際的コンセンサス。4、冷戦後の発展途上国。はい、予想以上に時代を反映しているのが国連なんですね。
The answer to this question is not straightforward, as it depends on whom the question is posed, and what is meant by the UN. The UN of yesterday is different from the UN of today, and it will be transformed into the UN of tomorrow.
数々の代理戦争があったとはいえ、第三次世界大戦は免れてきました。
At the fundamental level, the UN Charter, in its preamble, has made it clear that the universal organization was created, most of all, to prevent another large-scale scourge of war. On this account, the UN has partly contributed to the prevention of World War III, although there were some proxy wars.
はい、追いついてないところがあるとはいえ、かなり頑張ってますね。
The UN has undergone extensive changes in its 75-year history. These changes show that many concerned stakeholders have tried to amend the institutional shortcomings in the light of transforming global realities. The structural mechanism, including the size of the Security Council and ECOSOC, was amended in the early 1960s to facilitate the greater participation of newly independent sovereign states.
まずは話し合いの場を持つ。これがすごく大事ですよね。
The UN and its agencies have also provided various forums for diplomatic consensus building on pertinent issues of each period, a new international economic order, the 1960s and 1970s, development strategy, and debt management, 1980s. Environmental protection and regional integration, 1990s, globalization, terrorism, public-private partnership, 2000s etc. The UN system has been essential to promote the awareness of cross-border implications of these issues and cooperation to resolve them.
はい、発展途上国にいい感じの外交の場を提供したっていうの、これはすごくいいですね。
Many northern countries, say, OECD members, may find that the UN as a political establishment has outlived its usefulness, particularly in the post-Cold War period. Yet, the UN and its specialized agencies have provided many global South states, which cannot afford to build numerous embassies, with cost-effective hubs, for diplomatic communications, multilaterally and otherwise.
はい、いかがでしたでしょうか。すごい面白かったですよね。最後の世界と国連の関係を見た上で3本目を読んだ後でもう一度1本目と2本目を思い出すとさらにまた深く納得できるという、なるほどなっていう感じですよね。はい、そしてこちら画面に表示してますのがドクターケイプからのメッセージです。
The pandemic situation has made it impossible for me to travel back to Japan for the upcoming examination. But my wish of their success remains unchanged. I will continue to write essays until the last minutes. I am happy imagining that my essays are helping people whom I have never met before.
はい、コロナの影響がいろんなところに出てますね。ドクターケープですね、今回の受験を次回分に延期してもらえるということになったみたいですね。というわけで、ドクターケープと山ちゃんのエッセイ動画、まだまだ続きますので、どうぞ引き続きチャンネル登録をお願いいたします。Thank you for watching. I see you soon.